Number 10.
A handful of small annoyances can't keep Deus Ex Human Revolution down. Augmenting your own Adam Jensen gives you a cool amount of versatility in how you play, but what I really liked was its dingy cyberpunk style. No one builds game worlds like that anymore, and it was built in such a way that made me want to crack every lock, hack every computer, and read every single little piece of email.
9.
It's one part video game and one part multi-level marketing machine. I half expected Activision's toy figurines to start imploring me to open my own 900 line or start placing tiny classified ads in local papers around the country. But behind that lies a solid and varied Christmas timeline of nice-looking figures that work with its partner video game in a way that, even as an adult, seems downright magical. It certainly doesn't hurt that the game ain't bad either. There's a real feeling that everyone involved in this thing had to thread a very tiny needle. Because if one part didn't hold up, the entire plan would come crashing down in failure. But they totally did. And it's really neat.
8.
The people of Epic Games used Gears of War 3 to do what most franchises are downright scared to do in this day and age. They gave you an ending. It's the story, weirdly enough, that makes this traditionally macho shooter work so well. Seeing the characters falling apart and stumbling around just as damaged as the world around them is striking. And it turns even comic relief characters like the Coltrane into more meaningful parts of the overall story. And while I'm never going to have enough time to invest in the competitive multiplayer to get meaningfully good at it, the Horde and Beast modes fill that gap with terrific cooperative modes to keep everyone happy. Just don't buy that big-ass skin pack, okay?
7.
Portal 2 takes you out of the test chambers and into a dirty, decrepit world that wasn't quite tailor-made for your portal gun. Figuring out how to use that thing in a more complicated environment keeps the puzzling gameplay entertaining, but it's the dialogue and the story that really propel you through the game. From Wheatley's ridiculous arc to Cave Johnson's voice constantly poking at you from the past to, well, the moon, Portal 2 beat its already high expectations in a lot of key ways.
Number 6.
Batman Returns! No, not like that. Batman Arkham City returns you to the role of a great, grim version of the comic book Crusader as you make your way around a city-sized prison and beat the living crap out of anything or anyone stupid enough to get in your way. As before, Arkham City provides an adventure filled with exciting appearances from plenty of Batman's foes, and watching the world's capiest detective trade blows and barbs with his supporting cast is great to watch. But it's that combat system that really keeps you coming back, if only to take out another large group of enemies with combo strings that stretch out to the horizon. And hey, you know what? I really liked the ending too.
5.
If I had to pick a problem with Bastion, it's that I sort of plowed through it in a couple of days. Once I started playing it, I desperately wanted to see it through. And once I had completed the game, I immediately jumped into the New Game Plus mode to continue playing around with the game's numerous weapons, equipping some of the more esoteric options, and getting a shot at the game's second ending. A lot has already been said about the power of Bastion's audio, the way the narration propels you through its world and demands that you see what's next. That guy only gets you so far. If Bastion didn't back up its novel and exciting approach to narrative with snappy, great-feeling action, it all would have been for naught. But everything came together in a way that makes Bastion amazing.
4.
Mortal Kombat sets a new standard for storylines and fighting games. The seamless transitions from cinematics to fights and back again are seriously impressive, and it also gives you a reason to learn a little something with almost every character in the game. Then that single-player option is stretched even further with a challenge tower full of crazy goals. I should probably specify that's crazy with a K back there. Yeah, it had some unfortunate online issues that required patching, but once that got worked out, or if you were lucky enough to have some local competition, you got the best Mortal Kombat game since Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 with just about every single character you could want, and if you wanted to get into a little DLC, a few more too.
Number 3.
TrackMania 2 Canyon is simple and focused. Yet it has enough nuance to make it the sort of thing that some people completely obsess over. But I love it because of the community, which keeps creating newer and wilder tracks at such a fast pace that you might never see the same one twice. It doesn't waste its time with licensed cars and realistic physics either. TrackMania is far more concerned with big-ass ramps, wall rides, loops, and if you happen to be playing on the server I'm running, some of the best/worst/best again dubstep remixes I could find on YouTube.
2.
Skyrim, you guys. It's got a huge world, and it manages to make a lot of the locations in that huge world meaningful and cool instead of random and unfulfilling. That right there is a big part of what makes this a game that will simply absorb any last bit of free time you might think you have. It's the sort of game that allows you to fast travel, but incentivizes you in such a way that I found myself meandering from one quest objective to the next, letting myself get sidetracked by any distractions I ran into along the way. And most of what I stumbled into managed to be pretty interesting too. It's a shame to hear that some other players are running into technical issues, but I've sunk dozens of hours into the 360 version of the game and a fairly significant chunk of time into the PC version too, and I haven't had any problems at all. By that token, I suppose I should clarify that I'm only including those two versions of the game in this list, not the PS3 version, because that one, sadly, is busted.
Number 1.
It was right around the time when you shoot your way out of a crashing airplane only to quickly dive back into it, kill a few guys, and launch out the other side when I realized that Saints Row the Third was on some next level shit. Even though a portion of that sequence was a cutscene, it still lets you know that the game is immediately interested in putting your character at the center of an insane world, where rolling over to the National Guard armory to steal weapons and mow down anyone that gets in your way is just another day at the office. It continues at an almost alarming clip, introducing you to increasingly amazing characters and sequences and weapons and toilets and pixel tanks and cyberspace and airstrikes and punching dudes in the junk and explosions and tigers and more explosions and Burt fucking Reynolds. And to think that this franchise started as a fairly simple rip of Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto games. Saints Row the Third launches THQ and the developers at Volition into a whole new orbit, and I can't wait to see what's next.